Now we're going to start putting together a set of files you'll always want on hand. In Chapter 3, Pre-Planning, we described a set of files you'd want to consider for your Minimum Essential Data Set, or MED. The book is written for emergency responders, but once again, recreation users should look it over and see what might work for you. The core of your base data, and maybe the only file you'll ever need, is your digital USGS topo map. In the last exercise, you downloaded the 24K index of maps to your DRG folder. Now, you want to load that onto a GIS program to project the index grid onto a map of California. Depending on which class you're taking, open either ArcGIS Explorer Desktop or ArcGIS 10.1 or 10.2. We'll start with a demonstration of ArcGIS Explorer Desktop, which I'll also sometimes refer to as AGX. If you're using ArcGIS 10, we'll cover that in the next video, but it would be good for you to watch this video as well. Much of the information is the same. So click to start ArcGIS Explorer. Since you might want to have the data we're going to create as a future reference, you'll want to save this as your work map. So just go over to the globe, go to Save As, and save as an ArcGIS Explorer map. And then give it a name like, as I did here, California Quad Indexes 24K. And then navigate to your GIS data folder and put it into Projects and then save. But you can also save it to the default folder for ArcGIS Explorer. As I mentioned in the introduction, one of the advantages of ArcGIS Explorer Desktop is that if you're online, it will automatically download the maps of the area you're focused on. But it will also work disconnected from the internet as long as you have the base maps we're going to download. Also, if you have a slow connection, there's an advantage of having the maps you need for your area on a local drive so they load quickly. But for this section, you'll want to be connected to the internet so you can use the online maps as a reference. When AGX opens, it will be faster if you're in 2D mode rather than 3D, so switch from 3D to 2D if you need to. Next, go to the base map icon and scroll down and choose US Topo Map for your base map, because that's exactly the same type of map you'll be downloading, so it'll be an easier reference. Then zoom in on the area you're interested in. And I'll just choose randomly here. And we'll zoom in on Yosemite Valley. And notice how the map changes as you scroll in, showing you more of a topo map. ArcGIS Explorer is scaled so that it'll change map types as you zoom in closer. Now you'll want to establish a point in the general area of the maps you want to download, and that's so you can come back to it again. So on the top toolbar here, click on Point, and then just sort of put it anywhere, and I'll name it Map Point, just for a name to use. And an alternative, because what we're going to want to do is to be able to come back to this general area without having to scroll and move around. So an alternative is go to the View tool, and this is like a bookmark, and so this will also, and so we'll just name this Yosemite Valley. And this is another way you can quickly return to your area of interest. And the way to use either of these, we'll just zoom out a little bit here. So for instance, you'd right click and you just go to, and it returns to that view you saved. And the same with the point. You'd right click and go to, and it returns you to that point. And, always good practice, save your work. Next we're going to load the map index file. So go to Add Content, and from the drop-down remember that the index file we downloaded was a shapefile. From the shapefile drop-down, navigate to the folder you saved your index map to. So in our case, that was GIS data, base data, and then topo maps. And then highlight DRG 24 and choose Open. But notice I'd also downloaded the index to the 24K mosaics, and we'll look at that a little later. The map will zoom out, showing all of the indexed quads of California, and your point will also show for your area of interest. Next, open the Contents window and click on the small pin in the upper right, and if it's closed you just click Content, click on the small pin to anchor it in place. And choose the drop down for your DRG 24 to show the symbol. Then right click over the color symbol and choose Symbols. Then choose any of the outline symbols. That is, they'll show the outline but no solid color filling it. So a red or blue border would just work fine. And the index should then change to a grid of all the map quads in California. Now right click on your home point symbol and choose Go To, and the map will zoom to that point as the center. You'll see a grid of each map quad in the Yosemite area, and alternatively you could have chosen Yosemite Valley and right clicked and zoomed to that. Now you can navigate around with the hand tool or the zoom tool, zoom in and out, to see what maps you want. When you identify a map area you want, click somewhere inside the grid with the hand tool, and a pop-up appears showing the information for that quad. So either write it down from the label field or copy and paste it into a running text file if you're going to do a bunch of maps and you just want to keep a list of what you want to download later. And you can also run this same workflow for the mosaic maps under the DRG folder. Just be sure to download the index for the mosaic maps and see if that covers the individual maps you want. And we'll do that right now. We unclick to get rid of that quad maps, and then back to shapefiles, and then we choose the mosaic. And once again, it zooms out to all of California. Right click, symbol, and we'll choose purple. Zoom in, go to. We zoom out because these are a much larger area. And so notice that the mosaic quads cover a much larger area, so you may want all of, say, Yosemite centered around Yosemite Valley. And again, you click on it, and here is the number, index number you'll look up in the mosaic folder. But let's go back to the smaller index files. Another way to show the information for a map quad, and a little bit easier, you'll notice you've got an awful lot of information here you don't really need. So you can, if you've got it highlighted, go to Appearance and then go to Pop-up Content, and what you're going to do is unclick the fields that you don't need. So you want name and label, but not the rest.
And then you'll also want to scroll down, select a field to use for the pop-up. So you'll use Label, Display as Tip, and then OK. So now what happens, and let's zoom back in again, is when you hover over each map quad, the pop-up comes up showing the number and name, or when you click on it directly, a much shorter index comes up just showing the name and the number. And then, as always, let's save. And OK, break time. So this may all seem kind of complicated, but once done and your map file's saved, you don't need to do it again. The next video will demonstrate the same workflow using ArcGIS 10.1. If you only intend to use ArcGIS Explorer, you can skip to the video, File Types, and MED.